Humans in the cardboard. Tomorrow we'll probably get the ban list. Sorry, didn't end up coming today. That's my fault, I guess. I don't know. It's so hard to predict these things. But, they said late August, which means it should come before September, which is in like 5 days. So we should be getting the ban list in the next couple days. Konami tends to drop them at the beginning of the week more so than the later in the week. So I would expect it tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. Seems more likely to me still. So I would still predict tomorrow. We did a small little general discussion yesterday about the ban list. I want to go into a more like subsection of the ban list, which is like just degenerate stuff, because as much as Snake Eye does need to be hit, I still don't look at Snake Eye as like this super degenerate strategy. I almost look at them like I looked at Tier Limit. I never looked at Tier Limit and said they're so degenerate, it's so toxic. A lot of people thought that format wasn't even that unhealthy. It was just you kind of had to play Tier Limit because it was too good. And that's kind of how I feel about Snake Eye. I think they're just too good right now for all the other decks in the game. We need to balance it out so that way more decks can compete against the top decks in the game. And so what I want to focus on today is the degenerate side of Yu-Gi-Oh right now. So I've got 7 things here that I think like make a lot of sense in terms of they just promote unhealthy play, like gameplay, and unhealthy games that don't end the way or really function the way that you would want a Yu-Gi-Oh game to be. They want there to be a little bit of back and forth. You want there to feel like there's a chance on both sides, at least to some degree. And these cards don't. So the first one is Beatrice. This to me is the one part of the Fiendsmith engine. Obviously the Fiendsmith engine is insane, right? It's super splashable. It gives you really good payoff. The one thing I don't like though is that it can make Beatrice. If you can make everything else aside from Beatrice that it makes right now, I think it's just like really good, but not like degenerate. And I think Beatrice is the degenerate part of it because it allows you to do the transaction rollback, lock your opponent out of the game type stuff. Right, and that's kind of where I go, is just giving them that option. Even if you have to play bricks for it, some people will still do that, and I don't love it. So I would love to see Beatrice get the axe here. Give it a year or two. Konami can errata it later and make it a little bit less degenerate, at least generically. So I'd like to see that. Next up is Skill Drain, and this one, honestly, I wouldn't mind if it doesn't get hit. I actually plan on using a deck soon in the next couple of months that might utilize this card. So if it doesn't get hit, it's actually nicer for me. And that deck's not even very good anyway, so don't worry about that. But for sure, I do still see the degenerate side of this card. It's one of those floodgates. It's not only one of those floodgates, but it's also a floodgate that's seeing play at high-level competitive play because certain decks like Snake Eye can out their own floodgate. So you put the floodgate up for your opponent's turn, and then you out it for your turn, and you play scot-free. That's a problem, right? So I get it. With with situations like that, Skill Drain definitely is something you need to have a discussion about. Next up, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. I've been wanting this card banned for format after format, ban list after ban list. It has not happened. Hopefully, with Centurion getting their next wave of support, that actually looks really good, especially their new Synchro. Maybe Konami believes they're just good enough now without this card anyway, where they can ban this card. Ban this degenerate monster. Get him out of here, because I think the deck will be fine going forward without it. At least I hope so. So I hope this is the time. Next up, Albion. We hoped this would get hit last ban list as well. Makes a lot of sense. Like, Branded still sits around every single format as one of those better decks. Tier 2 or really high-level Rogue normally. Like, format after format. And I'm cool with that. And I think it'll still sit in that position without this card. It just takes away the most degenerate thing that strategy does, which is like the puppet locking. You can't really ban the like puppet, the gimmick puppet in my opinion, because then they'll just use Ra's Disciple or the Ito or whatever. They'll find another way to make this card messed up. And that's what I want to avoid. So I think this card is the piece that ties it all together. I hope he gets banned on this ban list. Brandon will still be good. It just won't be doing degenerate stuff like it's been doing for the last couple formats. Next up, Appaloosa. Now, I really wouldn't mind if Appaloosa doesn't get touched at all here, but there's a couple things going on. One, you could look at Appaloosa like a floodgate, right? Like if you make an Appaloosa with 3 or 4 materials, you could look at it like it's just a floodgate, right? You're just floodgating your opponent out of monster effects, basically, because you're going to be able to negate 3 to 4 of them, especially if you have some sort of way to protect her from battle, so she's not, like, easy to out. Very strong card, not to mention if you think Konami's going to go in the same path they've been going in, which was ban Barone, ban Borlode Savage, ban some of those really generic, easy to make, just end board boss monsters that any deck can kind of use, I think Appaloosa and, to a smaller degree, IP Masquerena kind of sit next on that tier of degenerate, really good end board pieces that basically any deck can make. So I could see that happening. Again, I won't cry if it's not hit. I won't cry if it is hit. So it is what it is. Next up, Dimension Shifter. Everybody's going to be mad about this take, but it's the correct take for right now. This is not getting hit. I really don't think it's getting hit, especially considering in the last month we've had Malice announced, which is going to be one of the most hyped new archetypes coming to the game in the next couple of months, and it benefits off being banished. So I really don't see Shifter getting banned until Malice down the line is taken care of in some way, shape, or form, whether it gets power crept or whether they do have to ban something from Malice. Then they maybe hit Shifter again, or hit Shifter then when they know like Malice is not something they're actively trying to promote going forward. That's kind of where I'm at there. So, yeah, I get it though. Probably in a perfect world, this card is not in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, but I don't think it's going anywhere for the next couple months at least. So, yep. And then last thing is Runic. And this is Runic Stun specifically. I don't have a problem with Runic combo decks normally, but it's those Runic Stun decks that are just absolutely brutal. They're one of the most degenerate decks I've ever played against in the last couple of years of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I don't care if it's a hit to Fountain to just make the deck, like, hit it to 1, and that way the deck's, like, maybe fragile enough where, like, just ever banishing Fountain, like, wins you the game on the spot, basically, versus the deck. Like, that's one thing. As well as... you could also go after Tip or go after enough of the good names from the quick play spells where you force them to play like a lot of the bad names and then kind of water the deck down a little bit, start with Tip and go after the other ones maybe. But either way, it feels like Runic Stun's just a little bit too playable, and it's not fun to play against. There's even a lot of players who play the deck and say it's not even really that fun to play, but it wins. So it is what it is. So yeah, that's another thing I'd love to see get addressed for sure. There. So those are the 7 things that I had. There's probably other stuff too, so feel free to toss it in the comment section down below. Any other really degenerate parts of the competitive format over the last couple months that you think are worth taking a look at for this ban list as well. Ban list tomorrow. Cross your fingers. Let's hope it's a good one. Let's hope it's what everybody or most players are looking for. I'm out of here. Peace.